You know it.
Yeah.
Betsy, you're the dancing machine.
Play a little more tune. Let them get up and dance. Come on, you guys. A little play.
You worked with a lot of guitarists, didn't you? With a lot of named guitarists.
Many years ago. Yeah. Many years ago.
Tennessee Ernie Ford.
What was that?
Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Yeah, Tennessee.
Who else did you work with?
Tex Ritter, Eddie Arnold, Roy Rogers.
Roy Roger? That's
To
a
name a few.
That's a good name drop.
Yeah, that's a good.
Did you ever get involved in the rock and roll end of it at all?
Well, when I was
Like on
in the business, rock and roll really was very new, so
Yeah.
it really hadn't developed like it is today, if you call it development.
Were you at Woodstock?
Eric Clapton was one of my good friends.
Eric Clapton? Yeah. Well, he's really come on like gangbusters. Again.
Yeah, ever since he lost that
Child.
little child. Mother, give us a chorus to sing or something.
Lead us. We need a leader for the crowd. You guys are so good. Did you know love, love, love makes people happy?
Make people what? Boy,
Love makes people This is what she said.
She yells.
You did it with Ruth and I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's how we relate with you. When we watch you, people are coming. What are we watching? Huh? Yeah, you guys. Don't you remember this one?
I remember singing.
Yeah, right. So it all counts, right?
All you have to do is take your nose and your ear with the opposite thing. That's right.
Yeah, that's all you have to do.
You got it. You got it. Okay, you got it. Okay, ready? Okay. We're ready. Waliachi, waliachi, doo-la, doo-la-doo-doo. Waliachi, waliachi, doo-la-doo-doo.
Sorry, you back.
Like what you did before.
That's for the old
That's what the old fish do. Okay,
You think Mom's happy now?
ready, real fast.
I think we should hook the amplifier up.
Now,
That's
okay.
for the slow pull.
Yeah. All right, that's for the slow pulse.
Maybe Uncle Wib can do this at intermission up there.
Okay,
Put
now.
him on the
One
ice.
down here. We got one yawning. Let's wake her up.
Okay, ready?
Can you do it, Mark?
No, you can't.
full amplification tonight, Uncle Wilbur?
Oh, cool.
I just got a couple wooden legs there. I think so. They're hollow.
Adam.
Where did my choir go? I think they went out to lunch, don't you?
Alright, now let's hear the guys sing.
The Noah, or the Ten Commandment one.
How about this?
Feel free. Wait, tell you what, hold it for a second.
Okay, Ruth.
Well, Greg, when you asked me to say something about my parents, I had so many ideas and emotional effects, and I just didn't know where to start. But you know, there's a center to each home from which all love must start, and that center of our home was in our mother's heart. And mothers hold your hands for a while, but they hold your hearts forever. Now Adele, that's our Adele, has embroidered a beautiful wall picture that says, "Through our grandparents we received God's gifts of love, kindness, wisdom, and understanding." This is sure true for each one of us as we think of our parents. Grandpa came to the United States in 1902 for religious freedom and to avoid the draft, he'd said. He had become a born-again Christian there through an evangelist he'd heard in his area in Sweden. When he arrived in New York City by boat, he had to wait before he could get his train a while. And he bought some beautiful red fruit. And he thought they were apples. And on the train, he took a bite of one and the juice ran all over him. Well, back then they had the train windows open for you to get air. And he thought they tasted terrible, so he sailed a whole bag out of the train window. They were really tomatoes, but he didn't know because he'd never seen them before. In Pennsylvania, he became involved with the Salvation Army and got permission to start a Sunday school down there. Is this the way you want me to do it?
absolutely, it's terrific.
And he bought all the material himself and went around and collected children. He always loved children and was so concerned that they know the Lord. That meant so much to him. Dad had an accident in a sawmill in Sheffield, Pennsylvania, and he spent a long time in the Warren Hospital. I'm not sure how long it was though. And he knew he had to do different kind of work. His left arm became shorter as it was screwed together with many tiny gold screws. And even when I was 10 years old, he'd come down into the kitchen every once in a while on Chapman Street and show us a tiny screw that he had picked out of the skin of his arm. And he said, well, it just worked its way out. He had much pain in his arm and his shoulder, but sure didn't complain at all, we thought. Well, when he came to Jamestown, he met Mother at Chandler Street Baptist Church, and he gave her a diamond ring on the hospital hill here.
No kidding.
Huh?
That's terrific.
And on a midsummer night, they were married the following Thanksgiving in 1911. Gladys asked me to tell what I remember about Dad and his interest in Sunday school. We lived on Lake Street until I was 7 years old, and at that time, he was taking at least 2 loads of kids to church. He was Sunday school superintendent then, and some some that I can remember that rode with us with Alden, Ruth, Eileen Munson, Evelyn Eckblum, Dorothy Youngholm, and a couple boys on Lake Street. Sometimes some of the Swan kids would even go with us. Then he'd stop on McKinley Street and pick up Ruby Peterson. She was Sunday school treasurer until Ruth Carlson on Camp Street took it over. Then, when we moved to Chapman Street, he'd take the 5 of us, plus Doris, Geraldine Lynn, a bunch of Constantines, and sometimes Dorothy Ketchy. Her parents were more strict, so we didn't coax her too much. He'd drop a car full off and then go and pick up Paul Johnson and sister, Lawrence Pillsbury and his brother, and then out to the Bustye city limits where Blinda Holmstrom's girls would walk so he could pick them up. If he saw he wasn't going to make it back in time for the 3rd load up to Sweet Hill Way, he'd ask Gordon Marker to start the singing. He'd ask, and he'd soon be there. There he picked up Linus Danielson, which was a teacher, Ruth and Marie Carlson in rags, and Dad would come running up on the basement platform, ready to take over. We had Who's New Today, that was the welcome, and birthdays, and we sang Dropping, 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 Hear the Pennies Fall, Everyone for Jesus, He will get them all. Did you know that song?
No, that's a first.
Yeah. Then we'd say the Lord's Prayer in Swedish. Sing a Swedish song, especially Jesus älskar alla barnen. And Born i Söndagsskolan. It's on page 151 of the Friedrichster songbook. And then he stressed perfect attendance. And if we were sick, to bring an excuse. Then we wouldn't get marked absent. At the end of the year, we were awarded perfect attendance pins, seals for our diplomas. If we missed one Sunday, it was a gold seal. If we only missed 2 Sundays, it was a silver seal. That's for the whole year. Yeah. And we had these diplomas on our walls in our bedroom at home, and we added to it every year. Can you remember that, Wilbur? Yes. Then after opening, we all went to classes for 45 minutes. Often Dad had to teach if someone hadn't showed up. During his 13 years as Sunday school superintendent, he took many teachers to the National Sunday School Convention meetings. And he had several in Toronto, I can remember, and he took some to Buffalo one time. And I think it was even Union City, Pennsylvania. They had a Sunday school teachers conference. After church, several would help him take kids home. Sometimes we had to wait until he'd taken a load home. I can't remember, but I think he had teachers meeting once a month and sure did a lot of calling for that. All the while, Mother was keeping home, fires aglow. If any out-of-town people were in church, to be sure, they had to come home for dinner. He'd call Mom and tell her to put on. 4 or 5 more were coming. She'd peel a few more potatoes and put more plates on the dining room table, and we always had white linen tablecloth and napkins for Sunday dinner. It was a precious time. Sometimes if a lot of people come, she'd call the kids into the kitchen and say, take just a few potatoes the first time around. Then the second time, if there's any left, you can have. Because I've peeled more and they're not quite cooked yet. She was something else. Mom loved to cook and Dad loved to bring home everything she needed so she could fix it. Dad was so appreciative of Mom. Often when she was standing by the stove on Chapman Street there, stirring gravy or whatever, he'd come in the door, put his arm around her waist and say, do you children realize what a clean, pure mother you have? Today, I've seen so many filthy women, he says. Really, He said an awful lot there that we didn't comprehend until later years. Mom loved to cook. We always had a large breakfast. As soon as we were off to school, she'd start dinner. It was on the table by 12 noon. Dad would come in and we'd all eat together. Then at night, we had a light supper, leftover soup or fresh baked rolls even, as Dad often went to church or worked late. The market was open on Saturday nights till 9 p.m. Saturday night supper was hot homemade rolls, cinnamon or plain, whichever we wanted. She had them both. But we didn't get these until after our night bath, which we took once a week. Saturday we changed underwear. We took once a week on Saturday. And we changed underwear Sunday morning and Wednesday morning. Times are different now, right, Craig? Greg? When we were small, Mother would go to church with Dad Sunday night. Elsie or Esther Sandberg would stay with us. And once a month on Thursday, Mom had ladies' aid, and that was Mom's time to go out alone. After the meeting, she'd shop with Aunt Sigrid. She'd get cloth and thread and everything, so she'd be real happy for the whole month, I think, because that's the only time she had a chance to go out and do much shopping. And she always brought a treat home for us. And our treat was really jelly, orange slices. Oh, what a treat that was, from the 5 and 10 cent store up there on 3rd Street. Now, Mortimer, Stein, Ruth, and Esther come from Sweden around 1919, just after Dad had been to Sweden to see his ailing mom. They lived on the 2nd floor of Sampson Street. So I told you wrong, Gladys. I thought they lived on 3rd, but they were on 2nd floor. When Sigrid and Eric lived there too. Yes, it was a crowded time until aunts got work, found an apartment, and furnished it on McKinley Street. I can remember Mormor was just 65 years old, as Moorfar had died. They sold everything and come here. What an adjustment must have been for Mormor. She was always so happy and loving, and her hands were always busy, knitting, darning socks. I can remember Mom saying, people think we have money because we were always dressed so nice. This is the page here, 6. This is all nonchalant, Mom. Yeah. And people always thought we had money because we were always dressed so nice. She would go to rummage sales at churches and buy old clothes, come home, rip them up, wash them, and sew. She spent Saturday night, late nights sewing, even our underwear. I can't imagine having to sew underwear. She used them to line my bloomers with flannel for the winter months. I was their only girl and could not wear slacks or long pants. I didn't either until I left home in 1935. My hair was never cut until I was about 18 years old. One shopping spree, she had a rummage sale and she got a beautiful brown velvet long evening cape. It ended up as a beautiful fitted leggings, coat, and hat trimmed in brown fur. The leggings had buttons and holes all the way up and down the leg from knee to ankle. What a job for her. I was probably 6 years old then, and Mom sure loved her white sewing machine she had for years. The treadle machine, of course. I could go on and on, but how can one write about 72 years of one's parents' life? They were such terrific parents. When my report card wasn't as good as Phil's, I'd cry, and Dad put his arm around me and say, all God expects is our very best. We are all talented in different ways, and what a natural psychologist he was. Our parents sure were. They read the Bible daily, and I now know That was their book of knowledge. And then I went on, Greg, can you read this?
That's terrific. That's terrific.
It isn't, yeah, I'm sure you got different things from the others too,
They're all different.
but yeah, I bet
what's,
they are.
That's what's terrific about it.
Yeah.
Hey, tell me a little bit about you. Were you at home when my mother was going through her illness?
Haven't you heard that at all?
I heard a little bit, but I'd like to hear from your perspective. Kind of what.
Oh, I tell
When
you, I don't know for sure, but we were out and had picked pussy willows. Do you remember the pussy willows?
Yeah, I think it was out Axel Olsen's. Was it in back of Axel Olsen's grocery store up there on?
Where it was sort of swampy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up there on Sampson Street.
And it seemed like in just a couple days, she got this terrible cold sore on her face. Oh, it was just huge. And in just a matter of a few hours, it seemed like that she was running a high temperature. And Mom put her in bed and started bathing her with water and that. And pretty soon her back got just stiff. So they called the doctor right away. And Dr. Malone come right up and he says, listen, we got a sick girl here. We got to take her down to the hospital. And you went to that little green building,
The Contagious
the
Hospital.
Contagious Hospital, and us kids, we were all lined out outside. We weren't allowed to go in. And Dr. Malone was sort of puzzled about it, so I think he called in Dr. Blaisdell, who was just there sort of interning at the hospital. He was a real new doctor then in town. And they did a spinal on Gladys, and the spinal fluid come out, the meningeo bacteria, the cocci meningeo, and you had meningitis.
Mm-hmm.
And you kept getting worse and worse, and the doctor, he says, she's not going to make it. And we all prayed. We kids sat on the curb there and just cried. We just prayed, God, you gotta save her, you gotta save her. And my dad met us out there and he says, you know, Dr. Blaisdell has just gotten his pilot license. And he's gonna fly to Buffalo and pick up a new drug that is in the experimental stage. Because she's not gonna live anyways, but they're gonna try it. And we just prayed that God would see that that medicine worked on you. Well, I tell you, it was a real emotional time and hard for us. I don't know how long you were in the hospital, I can't remember. But you come home and you couldn't walk. And Daddy says, that's okay, she's gonna walk, she's gonna walk. And we'd set you down by the piano. He'd carry you down, set you on the piano bench, and you'd sit there and play, and then he'd carry you back upstairs and lay you down. And this is, I remember that, how hard it was for us all. We just prayed. That's what really drew us close together as kids. Because of you. And the Lord spared you.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a wonderful example of God's answer to prayer.
Oh.
Because it's an experience
Yeah.
that I will always remember.
Yes, sir. And we massaged you and we worked your legs and we took turns. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Well, I remember laying upstairs in the bedroom there, yeah. And having people bring my meals up in bed, and
Yeah.
Mother always coming in.
Yeah.
But it sure was a sign of God's
God
answer.
working.
Yeah.
Yes, really working. Because the doctors just felt helpless.
Mhm.
But to think Blaisdell was in Jamestown, and he had just gotten his pilot license,
Mhm.
and he flew into Buffalo and right straight back. And
And I know Dr. Malone said that it was a power higher than he that
yeah,
that
Yeah.
that cured me. So it wasn't him, but it was the higher power.
yeah,
So it was.
it was really
Yeah.
hard time. Were you 7 then?
Yeah, I think so. And I was trying to figure. I think I was in the 2nd grade. Would probably be about
Uh-huh.
2nd grade.
But they did cultures on that cold sore and everything, and they think it was from whatever you picked up out there.
Oh, no kidding.
What was sort of, they went out there and took cultures of it too, the swampy part.
Where was this?
I don't know where we picked Pussy Willows.
I thought it was in
remember.
back of Axel Olsen's old grocery store up there. We were picking Pussy Willows, but it was in a swamp somewhere
Yeah,
that we were.
it was swampy.
Yeah.
Wet.
Well, you got so sick down that swamp in back of
Yeah.
just a few years ago.
Must be
She got so sick. She got so sick down from something you threw down the swamp and behind the Audubon
Really?
a couple years ago. Yeah, they had to send cultures to out of like
Well, I
state.
had, yeah.
Salmonella, whatever it was.
Salmonella then, yeah.
Pretty sad swamps.
Huh?
Let's
Yeah,
see
but
what's
stay
wrong.
Yeah,
out of it.
stay away from algae of some kind. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch gears completely now. I've heard a lot about your father, who was a really fast driver, guy who liked his cars, and a guy who just speed was no object to him.
Well, tell them about when you went to Niagara Falls with all the young people.
Oh, I
You
don't
tipped
remember
over, the car tipped over.
Oh no,
and
we were down in the choir was down in Union City
Oh,
to put on a radio program. That's when there wasn't too many radios, you know. In this church in Union, what was the name of that pastor? Lehman. That young boy.
White preacher.
What was his first name?
Louis Lehman.
Huh?
Louis.
Louis Lehman. He was only 12 years old. Preacher, was he?
No.
What?
Only about 6.
6-year-old
6 years old,
preacher.
oh my gosh.
And he'd been on the radio and everything. And Mrs. Chingren, you know her, she wanted the choir to be down there on the radio because there wasn't too many radios. And my dad had 9. Well, we were 9 in that 9-passenger Buick, going down to, I think it was Union City, wasn't it? And we performed and had lunch and had a real good time down there. On the way home, my dad was driving and some drunk guy come facing him. And Dad swerved in that high, you know how high that Buick was. Just the swerve made it tip over and we slid along the highway. And I can't remember, but I know that they got the policeman and a few come and they tipped the car up and we drove it back home again.
They did those
But,
days.
you know, we were singing, Let the Lower Lights Be Burning then. And so when we got in the car, of course, my dad was afraid of gasoline and that when he started the ignition again, because he turned off the ignition right away. And something was pouring, but it was the water rather. He had it checked in the next little town. But we were singing at the time we turned over, Let the Lower Lights Be Burning. And my dad says, you know, we gotta sing all 3 verses there. Well, I didn't know then. I was just a kid, choir kid, you know. I'm where else? She said, you can't drive that fast. What if one screw goes loose?
Oh, yeah.
We'll be in an accident for sure. Yeah.
Well, then when he, during the later years, then remember how everybody had to look out after him. He drove out in the road there, yeah, when he was, they gotta look out for me in a way.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
That's Oscar stories, yeah.
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 So, but no, I was thinking of that time when Howard Setterwall was with you when you went to Niagara Falls and they found the underwear on the.
Oh no, we were young people. That was a group of young people. My dad wasn't
Oh,
with on
I
that,
thought
no.
he was with you.
Well, let's hear that. Hey, this.
Well, that was during the World's Fair in Chicago. And a bunch of us young people, well, we were 9 of us that went to Chicago in that blue car, blue Buick. And we stopped at a motel somewhere along the way. It was a motel. One for the girls. I can't remember everybody that went with. But yeah, I know it was Alden Munson and hotel door, and his shorts were way down to here. And he was short anyways, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, are those your pajamas? And he said, oh, those are my shorts. I'd never seen shorts like that before. And we just teased the life out of him the whole trip over that. Boy, we had a good time at that World's Fair.
You should tell Hank about it.
And we looked back and this guy was off the road behind it because we chased him right off, you know. He was older then. He was sick,
Yeah.
poor guy.
Yeah. So he just.
Oh, yeah, see, I wasn't home too much.
No, not then.
then.
You weren't around, huh?
Mhm.
And all we did was drink grapefruit drink. Every picnic he had, grapefruit drink.
Oh, did he?
Oh, cans upon cans of that, and green lemon, green Jello they got from Phil from the service.
That was free.
Yeah, but you know, Sunday afternoons we used to, if we were good, Grandpa would say at the dinner table, he says, if you let me rest 1 hour, he'd had a busy morning, you know
Yeah.
what? Yeah, he says, then we'll do something. And well, usually, a lot of times we'd go to Warren to that ice cream parlor down there. But sometimes he'd want to stop and get a bottle of, what kind of was it? It wasn't beer, but what was it called?
Hey.
Don't you remember?
Sarsaparilla?
No,
Knee-high.
knee-high what?
Well, that was
Beverages.
pop. That was a pop.
No, that was pop, but this was, it looked like a beer bottle, and we were just, you know, Grandpa, no, it's not alcoholic. He says it's not alcoholic, but we just didn't like the name. But what the heck was the name of it?
Well, it was a near beer, but
Near beer.
okay, there you go. Well, that's what they drink in Sweden.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
And we just thought that near beer, you know, Grandpa drinking near beer in Sunday school. That was an awful word for us.
Yeah, sure.
That's pretty good right there. Yeah. That's like Miller Lite today.
Is it?
Sure.
O'Doul's.
Huh?
It's like